Admiral Jack Morrison stood at the large window of the diplomatic station Meridian 7. The stars seemed different here, cold and distant. For 3 long years he had watched them while talking with aliens who thought humans were nothing more than clever animals. The station floated in empty space above Kepler Prime. A world nobody wanted because it was too hot and too dry. It was perfect for meetings where nobody trusted anybody else. Jack had spent more time here than he wanted to remember. Behind him, Lisa Wong was reading through papers one more time. She was his best advisor, smart and careful. She never missed. Anything important? Next to her sat Colonel Pete Rodriguez, a man who had fought in more battles than most people had eaten hot meals. His job was to think about war so Jack could think about peace. Today was the day the aliens would give their final answer. Jack already knew what it would be. The aliens had been clear from the start. Humans were new, humans were weak, and humans needed to learn their place. The meeting room was huge and round, with seats for all the important alien species. The Valkyrie sat on one side, tall and proud with their blue skin and fancy clothes. They acted like they owned the galaxy just because they were old. Their leader was Ambassador Zethara, who spoke like every word cost money. On the other side sat the Nexari. They looked almost human, except for their gray skin and black eyes. Everything was business with them. They counted money, while other people counted stars. Their trade representative was named Court, and he never smiled. The Keth filled the back of the room. They were big and strong, covered in scales and scars. They loved fighting more than breathing. General Thok led them, and he looked at humans, like they were meat waiting to be cooked. Jack walked to his seat between Lisa and Pete. The room went quiet. Everyone knew this was the moment that would decide everything. Ambassador Zethara stood up slowly. Her voice was cold and clear. The Galactic Council has reached its decision regarding humanity's place in our civilization. Jack said nothing. He had learned that aliens like to talk, and the more they talked, the more they told you about what they really wanted. For 3 years we have been patient with your species, Zethara continued. We have tried to help you understand how things work in the galaxy. We have shown you the benefits of joining our order. Port from the Nexari pulled out a small device and started reading numbers. Economic benefits alone are worth trillions. Of your credits, trade routes, technology sharing, protection from pirates and hostile species, General Thok just growled. Everyone knew what he thought. Humans should be grateful for any deal at all. Jack waited. He knew the real offer was coming. Zethara smiled, but it was not a kind smile. However, your integration into galactic society requires certain adjustments. First, your military must be reduced to local defense only, no more than 100 ships, and they must be commanded by council officers. Lisa's hand tightened on her papers, but she stayed quiet. Second Court added, 60% of your population must relocate to designated colony worlds where they can be properly educated in galactic customs and laws. Jack felt Pete tense beside him. The colonel's jaw was tight, but he said nothing. Third, Zethara continued, your species requires genetic modification to better integrate with galactic society. Nothing harmful, of course, just improvements to make you more suitable for civilization. The room was silent, except for the soft hum of the station's air systems. Jack looked at each alien face, seeing the same thing in all of them. They thought this was generous. They thought humans should be grateful. In return, Zethara said, humanity will receive basic trade rights, protection under galactic law, and guidance from the Council in all important matters. Jack stood up slowly. He was not as tall as the Valkyrie or as strong as the Keth, but something in the way he moved made everyone pay attention. Thank you for your offer, he said in a clear, calm voice. The aliens looked pleased. They thought he was going to accept. However, Jack continued, I must decline on behalf of humanity. The room exploded. Zethara's eyes went wide. Court started, making angry clicking sounds. General Thok roared and slammed his fist on the table. Cannot decline, Zethara said, her voice sharp with shock. No species survives outside the galactic order. You need us, perhaps, Jack said. But we choose to find out for ourselves. "This is madness," Court said, his numbers forgotten. "Your economy will collapse. Your people will starve. Pirates and raiders will destroy your colonies." Stood up, all 7 feet of him. "You will beg to return within a year, and when you do, the terms will be much worse." Jack looked at each of them. "That may be true, but it will be our choice." He turned to Lisa and Pete. "Gather our people. We're going home." As the human delegation prepared to leave, Zathera called out one last time. "They are making a terrible mistake. The galaxy is dangerous for those who stand alone." Jack stopped at the door and looked back. "Maybe, but we'd rather stand alone than kneel together." Within 6 hours, every human ship had left Meridian 7. The aliens watched them go, certain they would never see humanity again, except as beggars or corpses. On the bridge of his flagship, Jack looked out at the stars one more time. They seemed brighter now, more welcoming. Lisa stood beside him, worried, but determined. "Do you think we made the right choice?" she asked. Jack thought about Earth, about billions of humans who had never asked to kneel before anyone, thought. About children who would grow up free or not at all. "Ask me in a year," he said. Behind them, the diplomatic station grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared among the stars. The galaxy continued to spin, unaware that everything was about to change. The aliens thought they knew humans. They thought humans were just another species that would eventually submit or die. They were about to learn how wrong they were, but that would come later. For now, Jack Morrison stood on his ship, heading home to a world that would have to stand. Alone against the galaxy, he was not afraid. Humans had been standing alone for a long time. They were good at it. 6 months had passed since the humans walked away from the galactic talks. Commander Rick Hayes thought about that day often as his ship moved through the dark space between stars. Everyone expected to hear news about Earth by now.
Bad news.
Of course, the aliens all agreed on what would happen. Humans would starve without galactic trade. Pirates would attack their weak colonies. Their primitive technology would fail them. Within a year, maybe less, it would come crawling back, begging for any deal at all. Rick commanded the exploration ship New Horizon. His job was to map new star systems and look for useful planets. It was quiet work, which he liked. Today, he was checking the Tau Ceti system, a place nobody cared about because the planets were too cold, and the asteroids too, scattered to be worth mining. His sensor officer was a young woman named Beth Parker. She was good at her job and never missed anything strange. Today she was frowning at her screens. "Commander," she said, "I'm picking up something odd." Rick moved to look over her shoulder. Sensors showed metal signatures in the asteroid belt. "Lots of metal, more than should be there naturally. Ships?" he asked. "Maybe, but the patterns are wrong for any known species." Rick felt a cold feeling in his stomach. Unknown ships usually meant trouble. "Take us in for a closer look. Keep weapons ready, but don't target anything unless I say so." As the New Horizon moved deeper into the system, the truth became clear. The metal signatures were not ships passing through. They were structures built into the asteroids themselves. Mining platforms, processing stations, and what looked like small cities connected by tubes and bridges. "Dear God," whispered Dr. Alan Cooper, the ship's science officer. He was an older man who had seen many strange things in his years exploring space. "Look at the size of that operation." The asteroid belt was full of activity. Hundreds of ships moved between the mining platforms. The ships looked familiar but wrong, like someone had taken galactic designs and changed them in ways that made no sense. "Those are human ships," Beth said, checking her computer. "But they're modified. I've never seen configurations like this." Rick stared at the screens. This was impossible. Humans didn't have the technology for this kind of operation. They didn't have the resources. They certainly didn't have the time to build all this in just 6 months. "Sir," said his communications officer, a quiet man named Tony Walsh, "we're being hailed." "Put it on screen." The face that appeared was definitely human. A woman with short brown hair and tired eyes. Behind her, Rick could see the busy interior of what looked like a control center. It's an unknown vessel. "This is Director Sarah Kim of the Tau Ceti Mining Consortium." You are in claimed space. Please state your intentions. Rick blinked. Claimed space. Humans were claiming star systems now. This is Commander Hayes of the Galactic Exploration Vessel New Horizon. We were not aware this system was claimed. Sarah's expression didn't change. As of 4 months ago, this system is under human control. We are operating under the authority of the Human Colonial Administration. All mining rights in orbital space belong to us. I see. Rick tried to think of what to say. We're just conducting a survey mission. We mean no harm. You're welcome to observe our operations from a safe distance, Sarah said. But please do not interfere with our work. We have schedules to keep. The screen went dark. Rick and his crew stared at each other in silence. Dr. Cooper was the first to speak. This changes everything. Over the next 3 days, Rick watched the human operation with growing amazement. The humans worked with an efficiency that put galactic corporations to shame. Their ships moved in perfect coordination. Their mining platforms pulled resources from asteroids that galactic surveys had marked as worthless. Most impressive was their technology. The ships were clearly built from galactic designs, but they had been improved in ways that shouldn't be possible. Were faster, more efficient, and seemed to require less maintenance. How are they doing this? Beth asked as they watched a human cargo ship carry a load that should have been too heavy for its size. Dr. Cooper had been studying the readings for hours. They've modified the engine systems. Look at these power signatures. They're getting 30% more efficiency from the same basic design. Rick made his decision. He had to report this to the Galactic Council. But first, he wanted to see more. Over the next 2 weeks, Rick visited 4 more star systems. In each one, he found the same thing. Humans had moved in and built operations that worked better than anything the galaxy had seen before. They weren't just copying galactic technology anymore. They were making it better. The worst discovery came in the Vega system. Dr. Cooper had wanted to visit some ancient ruins there, leftovers from a civilization that died out millions of years ago. What they found made Rick's blood run cold. The ruins had been carefully excavated. Human teams had studied every building, every piece of old technology. They had taken detailed scans and samples of everything. Then they had packed up and left, taking their knowledge with them. They're not just expanding randomly, Dr. Cooper said, as they studied the empty dig sites. They're following a plan. They know something we don't. Rick sent his report to the Galactic Council through the fastest communication channels available. Within days, his findings were being discussed in emergency sessions across 3 species. Governments. Intelligence analyst Maria Santos was one of the first to understand what Rick's report really meant. She worked for the Galactic Council's Information Service, tracking threats to galactic security. She had been expecting reports of human collapse and surrender. Instead, she was reading about systematic expansion and technological advancement. Maria gathered every piece of information she could find about human activities since they left the negotiations. The picture that emerged terrified her. In 6 months, humans had established operations in 12 star systems. They had built mining platforms, research stations, and even small colonies. All of this was happening in space that the galaxy had written off as worthless or too dangerous. But the humans weren't just building randomly. Every system they chose had something special about it. Ancient ruins, rare minerals, or strategic positions along forgotten trade routes. They knew exactly where to go and what to look for. The technology reports were even more disturbing. Human ships were using improved versions of Valtheri energy systems, enhanced Nexari manufacturing techniques, and modified Keth armor designs. Somehow, they had taken the best from each species and made it work together. Maria's final report to the council was short and direct. The humans were not collapsing. They were not begging to return. Instead, they were building something new, something that could challenge the galactic order itself. The emergency session that followed her report lasted for 3 days. When it ended, the 3 major powers had made a decision that would reshape the galaxy. If humans would not accept their place in the galactic order, then the order would have to be enforced by other means. Fleet Admiral Karen Stone stood in the command center of Luna Station, watching the displays that showed enemy ships gathering at the edge of human space. I'd been expecting this day since Admiral Morrison walked away from the aliens 6 months ago. Now it was here. The aliens had done something that had never happened before in galactic history. The Valkyrie, Nexari, and Keth had put aside their differences to work together. Their combined fleet was the largest anyone had ever seen. Over 3,000 warships, all heading toward human colonies. Karen was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had spent her whole life in space, fighting pirates and exploring new worlds. Her staff trusted her completely because she'd never asked them to do anything she wouldn't do herself. General Ben Martinez sat at the planning table, studying the reports from their scouts. He was a big man with scars on his hands from years of ground combat. His job was to think about what would happen if the aliens landed troops on human worlds. They're not hiding their intentions, Ben said, pointing at the data. 3 fleets moving in formation. They want us to see them coming. Admiral Lisa Parker leaned forward from her chair. She commanded the outer defense fleets, the ships that would meet the aliens first. She was young for her rank, but had earned it through smart thinking and brave actions. It's a show of force, Lisa said. They think if they look scary enough, we'll surrender without a fight. Karen nodded. She had been thinking the same thing. The aliens expected humans to be terrified by their massive fleet, would realize they had made a mistake and beg to return to the negotiating table. They were wrong. Status report on our defenses, Karen said. Ben pulled up new displays. New Geneva is their most likely target. It's our newest colony, and they probably think it's the weakest. Captain Steve Williams is in command there with 40 ships. Karen knew Steve well. He was a good officer who had learned his skills fighting space pirates. He didn't panic under pressure, and he always found ways to make his enemies regret attacking him. What about the colony's ground defenses? She asked. Better than the aliens expect, Ben said with a small smile. We've been busy since we left the talks. That was true. While the aliens had been arguing about what to do with humanity, humans had been preparing for war. Every colony now had weapons that could fight ships in orbit. Every important building was protected by shields and armor. Most importantly, every human settlement was connected to the others by communication networks that couldn't be easily broken. The first battle happened exactly where Karen expected it would. The alien fleet arrived at New Geneva expecting to find a small colony that would surrender quickly. Instead, they found a fully armed military base with defenses that made them stop and think. Captain Steve Williams watched the alien ships take positions around his colony. His own fleet was much smaller, but his ships were built using everything humans had learned from studying alien technology. They were faster, tougher, and more deadly than anything the aliens had seen before. Sir, said his tactical officer, Lieutenant Jim Brooks, they're demanding our surrender. Steve looked at the massive alien fleet surrounding his small force. By all the old rules of space combat, he should surrender immediately. His 40 ships couldn't possibly fight 300 and win. But humans had never been good at following the old rules. Send them our answer, Steve said. New Geneva does not surrender. The battle that followed shocked the galaxy. Steve's ships moved like dancers, dodging alien weapons and striking back with precision that seemed impossible. The human vessels worked together in ways that confused the aliens, who were used to fighting enemies that followed predictable patterns. The aliens had better numbers, but the humans had better technology. Every human ship carried weapons that were built from studying all 3 alien species, could penetrate Valkyrie shields, outmaneuver Nexari missiles, and pierce Keth armor. Most surprising of all, the human ship seemed to learn during the battle. When the aliens tried a new tactic, the humans would counter it within hours. When alien weapons found weak spots in human defenses, those weak spots would be fixed by the next day. The siege of New Geneva lasted for 3 weeks. The aliens threw everything they had at the human colony, but they couldn't break through. Worse, they started losing ships to human counterattacks. The humans weren't just defending anymore. They were studying their enemies and finding ways to hurt them. General Thok, commanding the Keth part of the fleet, was the first to understand what was happening. "They are learning from us," he told the other commanders. "Every attack teaches them something new." Ambassador Zethra couldn't believe what she was hearing. That's impossible. They don't have the technology to adapt that quickly. But the proof was right in front of them. Human ships that had been damaged in battle would return to fight with new armor configurations. Human weapons that had been ineffective against certain targets would suddenly become deadly. It was as if the humans were rewriting their technology in real time. The end of the siege came when Admiral Karen Stone herself arrived with a relief fleet. She brought 60 ships, all of them equipped with the latest human modifications. The combined human force didn't just break the alien blockade. They drove the enemy fleet into full retreat, capturing dozens of ships and taking thousands of prisoners. The news of the defeat spread through the galaxy like wildfire. The greatest military alliance in galactic history had been beaten by humans, who weren't supposed to be able to fight at all. In the aftermath of the battle, prisoners were questioned and captured ships were studied. What the aliens discovered made them understand how badly they had misjudged humanity. The humans hadn't just been copying alien technology during the 3 years of negotiations. They had been improving it. Every ship design, every weapon system, every piece of equipment the aliens had shown them had been taken apart, studied, and made better. The human industrial base, built in secret while the talks were happening, now produced ships that were superior to anything in the galaxy. Their weapons were more accurate, their armor was stronger, their engines were more efficient. But the most frightening discovery was how quickly humans could adapt. They didn't just learn from their enemies. They took the best ideas from everyone and combined them in ways that no one else had thought possible. The defeat at New Geneva marked the end of the old galactic order. For the first time in thousands of years, the 3 major powers had been beaten by someone they had dismissed as primitive newcomers. Karen Stone stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking at the stars where the alien fleet had been. She felt no joy in the victory. War was never something to celebrate. But she felt satisfaction knowing that humanity had proven it could stand on its own. The galaxy was about to learn that humans were not just another species to be controlled. They were something new, something that would change everything. Jake Morrison crawled through the dark tunnel, his knees scraping against the cold metal floor. Behind him, Maria Santos and Danny Wright followed in silence. The old subway tunnels beneath New Detroit had become their home for 3 years now. Above them, alien ships blocked out the sun. The Dominion had come to Earth 50 years ago. They said they needed workers, said humans were lucky to serve such advanced beings. Jake remembered his grandfather's stories about the time before the gray ships arrived. Back then, humans could look up and see blue sky. Now the sky was always gray. Massive domes covered every city, pumping alien air that made humans work harder, but think slower. In the deep mines, millions of people dug for crystals the aliens needed. Most humans never saw daylight anymore. Jake stopped at a metal grate and peered through the holes. The Dominion Communications Center stood 50 feet away. Tall crystal beings called Zephyrians glowed with blue light as they worked at strange machines. Tentacled creatures called Krillax slithered between them, checking data on floating screens. "You sure about this?" whispered Maria. She was 35, older than Jake, and had been a scientist before the Dominion made her dig in the mines. Her dark hair was streaked with gray from years underground. "We need to know what they're really afraid of," Jake said. "Something doesn't add up. Why conquer us if we're just dumb workers?" Danny Wright, barely 20 and born after the invasion, had never seen the old world. But he understood machines better than anyone Jake knew. The boy could fix anything with spare parts and determination. "I can get us into their system," Danny said, "but we'll only have minutes before they notice." Jake nodded. They cut through the grate and slipped into the communication center during the shift change. The aliens never expected humans to move this quietly. They thought humans were too slow and stupid for real stealth. Danny plugged a small device into one of the machines. His fingers danced over a makeshift keyboard he had built from salvaged parts. Lines of alien text scrolled across the screen, then shifted into English as his translation program worked. These are old records. Really old. Maria leaned closer. What do they say? The Zephyrians are scared, Danny said, his voice filled with wonder. Listen to this. It says humans are the descendants of something called Starwalkers. The Dominion didn't conquer us for our labor. They conquered us to keep us from remembering what we really are. Jake felt his heart race. What are Starwalkers? Danny's eyes grew wide as he read. Beings who could travel between stars without ships, who could change the laws of physics just by thinking about them. The Dominion's entire civilization exists to make sure Starwalkers never return. A loud alarm suddenly filled the air. Blue lights flashed as Zephyrian guards rushed toward their location. Time to go, Jake said. They ran through the tunnels back to their base. The underground hideout was hidden behind a collapsed section of track. 43 humans lived there, all that remained of the new Detroit resistance. They had cots made from scavenged materials, a water purifier Danny had built, and weapons that were mostly tools converted for fighting. Jake called everyone together. Old Tim Brooks sat on his cot, coughing from years of breathing mine dust. Susan Ward, who had been a teacher before the invasion, helped the younger resistance members understand their plans. Pete Collins and Ray Murphy, former soldiers who remembered the last futile battles against the Dominion, listened carefully as Jake shared what they had learned. We've been thinking too small, Jake said. We've been planning to fight them, to drive them off Earth, but maybe that's not the answer. What do you mean? Asked Susan. Maria stepped forward. The aliens are afraid of what humans might become. They're not keeping us here because we're good workers. They're keeping us here because they're terrified of letting us loose in the galaxy. Danny had been working on his computer while they talked. I've been trying to contact other resistance cells around the world. Look at this. The screen showed a map of Earth. Red dots marked locations where human resistance groups were active. There were more than Jake had ever imagined. Australia, Europe, South America, Asia, Africa. Everywhere humans lived, some had refused to give up. I'm getting messages from all of them, Danny continued. They've all found the same thing. Hidden caches of human technology the aliens never discovered. Experimental ships, new types of engines, things that work on principles the Dominion says are impossible. Lisa Carter's voice crackled through, the communicator from Australia. We found 3 prototype ships in an underground facility near Sydney. The engines use something called quantum consciousness drive. No idea what that means, but the computers say they work. Rick Powell checked. In from Europe, same here. The Germans had been working on something called reality manipulation before the invasion. The equipment is still here, still functional. Nina Brooks from South America sounded excited. We've got 12 ships ready to fly, engines that bend space, navigation systems that respond to human thoughts. It's like they were waiting for us to find them. Jake looked around at his people. They were tired, hungry, and had been beaten down for years. But something was changing in their eyes. Hope was returning. Here's what I think, Jake said. The Dominion conquered us to keep us on Earth. They're afraid of humans in space. So let's give them something to really fear. You mean leave Earth? Asked Tim. All of us, Jake said. Every human who wants freedom. We don't fight them for Earth. We take ourselves away from Earth. We become what they're afraid of us becoming. Susan stood up slowly. A complete exodus. Every resistance cell, every hidden group, every human who dreams of freedom, all leave at the same time. But where would we go? Asked Pete. Maria smiled for the first time in months. Everywhere. If we're really descended from Starwalkers, maybe we don't need a home planet. Maybe space itself is our home. Over the next 2 weeks, Jake's plans spread through the global resistance network. The idea was simple but massive. On the same day, at the same time, every human resistance group would attack Dominion facilities, not to destroy them, but to steal every ship they could find. Combined with the hidden human ships they had discovered, it might be enough to get several million people off Earth. They called it Operation Exodus. Jake stood in the ruins of the Statue of Liberty's torch, now used as a Dominion watchtower. He had climbed up through maintenance shafts to reach the broadcasting equipment. In 6 hours, humans all over Earth would begin their escape. "This is Jake Morrison speaking to every human who can hear this message," he said into the microphone. "We are leaving Earth. We're not running away. We're walking out. We're taking nothing but ourselves and our determination to be free." Looked up at the gray dome covering New York City. The aliens think they know what humans are. They think we're weak. They think we're slow. They think we belong in cages. Today we prove them wrong. Around the world, humans began moving toward spaceports, mining facilities, and alien bases. They carried simple weapons and tools, but their real strength was something else. For the first time in 50 years, humans were acting like humans again. "When we return," Jake continued, "it will not be as slaves. It will not be as beggars. Asking for our planet back? When we return, the stars themselves will know our names." The great walking was about to begin.